Hey, if you ever want to know how to make those paracord bracelets, stick around while I show you how to make this into this with a super simple Cobra weave. Okay guys, so looking at this real simply to start with, we got a loop on one end, we've got our weave through here, which we're going to walk through, which once you get moving on it, it's actually really simple to do. And then we've got a little button knot on the back side, so it comes around the bracelet, comes around the wrist, clips off right here. And if you're, as we move through this, if you actually, I use these for zipper pulls too, and then what I do is I'll leave this longer, I'll run down a few inches for my zipper pull, and I do this more with bankline than I do with paracord. And then rather than having this off there, I just actually cut off and then singe all my knots down here at the bottom. Just do a little overhand to tie it off. But it works for a good zipper pull too. But like I said, I don't use the paracord for it. I do more bank lines with the zipper pulls. But all right, so to make this, what do we need? Obviously, we need cordage. We'll use a lighter and a pair of scissors, and that's going to be about it. I don't get overly precise with my measuring, but we'll kind of walk you guys through what we do here. Okay, so first up, I need to measure what I'm trying to go around, and I try to make this super relaxed here. I don't try to get overly tight, because if I get overly tight with it, I end up running out of cordage. So I just try to be kind of generous with it. So I'm going to say let's add about this much space in there, and that should give us plenty of room to do any knotting and stuff that we have at the end. So I'm going to double that. So I'm going to take it and fold it over. Add another couple inches just for good measure, and then we're going to cut it off right here. Now what we're going to do is we really need 2 runs of cordage to do this weave. We're going to need one that's short and one that's long. And before I get started, I'm going to go ahead and burn these off. Okay, so we end up with one short one that we're going to wrap everything around, and then we're going to have a longer one that's going to do our actual weaving. So what happens is this one right here, that is this loop, that also is the same piece of cordage that is this knot down here. Everything else is woven around it. So this piece of cordage is actually straight all the way through until you get to here. And that's what the short piece is going to be. So how long does the long piece need to be? Well, it's basically about double the length of the short one, as a general rule of thumb. All right, so now that I'm there, I'm just going to turn this over. I'll thread the short one back through one more time. All right, so we're at the end. So this is exactly double right here, but just like we did with the other one, I'm going to give it a few more inches just for good measure, just so I know we've got plenty. I'd rather have to trim a little bit off at the end and waste a little bit of cordage than not have enough, because it kind of stinks when you get to the end of it and there's not enough room. Let's just burn this off here. Just makes it a little easier when you're working with it. So now what we're left with is a long piece of cordage and a much shorter one that's about half the length of the other one. So the first thing you need to do is find, I usually like to, on the short one, I usually go through and just do a little quick overhand loop, because it keeps me from getting twisted up with the uneven sides here. But I want to go through and I want to find the middle of each piece of cordage. All right, so this is going to be that one on my short piece. All right, so here we are in the middle here. Okay, so now that I have got the middle of both pieces of cordage here, short one in the left hand, longer one in the right hand, I'm going to put the longer one behind the shorter one, but also a little bit down, because what I'm doing is up here, I am leaving enough real estate to actually create this little loop right here. And we can adjust this after we get moving a little bit. We don't want to go too far with it. But so what we've got here is our little button hook up here at the top. Now I'm going to spread on the longer one, I'm going to spread these 2 ends out a bit here. So this is that middle strand. So we've really got the 2 arms, the right side and left side of the long piece down through the middle of the 2 sides of the short piece. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to pick a side, and it doesn't matter if you start on the left side or the right side, but you're going to alternate back and forth as you go. So I'm going to take my left side first, because that's just how I think about it. And I'm going to pull the cross here, pull it all the way across. Now with my other side, I'm going to come over the top of it. I'm going to come behind the two short pieces, and I'm going to pull all the cordage through. This first couple braids with it there, it's a little dicey, a little not overly steady, but once we kind of get the first one cinched in, and this is the point where we want to go through and update this, because I've just slowly slid it closed, not tight, but now I can go through and adjust this a little bit to create room for a little button up at the top. That's probably going to be about right. Now I can pull that down and cinch it. So now I started over here on the left side to begin with, so now I'm going to start on the right side and just drape this across. When you're first starting out and there's a little bit of extra cordage, it takes a little getting used to, but it gets a lot easier as the cordage gets shorter. All right, so I've just laid it across the top here, and just like the other side, just alternating the sides, I'm going to pull it over here, behind these two, through this hole, and slowly snug it up. Now I'm just going to alternate sides again. Left side across, right side under, well, right side over, then under the two, back through the hole, coming across. And you'll know if you screw up and alternate the sides. When I was first learning, one of the things I was forgetting to do was come underneath here, and then all of a sudden it's detached, and that looks janky, and you figure that out pretty fast. But then also I was having trouble keeping in my mind which side I was last on. And the more you do these, you figure out, you can tell by the way it looks. It's like, oh wait, nope, that was wrong. And it's a little bit harder to see if I'm doing these and I don't have my old man cheater reader glasses on. But as long as I do, you can tell all we're doing is just alternating side to side to side in here, and then it gets a lot easier. If you find one that you did incorrectly, you just back that loop out and put it back in. As long as you're keeping in mind, though, that you're just going back and forth and just creating this sort of picket weave, usually it's pretty easy to keep up with. Like I said, what you don't want to do is not pay attention and just keep weaving, and then you get 4 or 5 inches down on your bracelet, and then you look up and you've got one of the weaves up here is incorrect, and you have to peel it all back out. But you guys can see we're making pretty quick headway here, and so we're already about 1.5 inches down into it. We're just weaving back and forth across the top, so see if we can get this done. Okay, so we're about at the right length now. I can pull around, and if I put my knot right here, got just enough. I probably actually could have gone about 1 loop less. All right, so I want to explain a couple things to you. If you guys noticed me, I messed up 1 or 2 of the bands earlier on in the higher speed, and I had to back those back out, and did that a little bit intentionally just so you could see me taking them out. But the trick with remembering which one you're going to start and come across with the first time, if you can't keep in your head the last one was left and I'm doing the right one, left one, right one, left one, right one. If you go through and look, the one that's on the top here, it's coming through the band, that's the one you start over with. And then you've got one that's on the top coming through, and you got one that's on the bottom. It's that top one that you want to come across with. Here, first thing we've got to do is anchor off these that's in the actual weave here. All right, so let's pull this nice and tight up here at the top and get it as tight as we can. And then I'm just going to clip these off relatively close, but not super close. Try to leave about that much in there. So I'm going to burn this, melt it down so we can flatten it out. Hopefully keep it from pulling back through. Nice big flat push melt section there, so it shouldn't pull back through. I'll do this other side real quick. I can toss that out the way, and that out the way. That's usually enough to keep them from pulling through. Just to kind of square them off and flatten them out. Okay, so next we need to create our little button knot here. I'm going to try to create it pretty close to this base here. We want it to be pretty blocky so that it'll actually go through that loop and hold. So I'm going to do a little double overhand here. And then try to make this a little chunky when we pull it tight. As we're tightening it up, I'm going to try to force it back up on top of itself, just so we get a nice big blocky sort of barrel knot up here. So let's test this out and see. Everything looks good. We'll cut these off. All right, there we go. So now we can just snip these off. So now we've got our little bracelet here. We're going to pull it over and around our wrist. And you want to size these so that they're relatively snug. You don't want them overly loose. Right, now we push our little button through. And there we go. A little simple Cobra weave paracord bracelet. Okay, guys, hopefully you found that beneficial. Nice, easy way to carry a few extra foot of cordage with you out on the trail next time you're out and about. And as always, if you're out there right now, just remember left foot, right foot, repeat. We'll see you out there next time.